This is a presentation of WCTV, all volunteer community access television from the Township of Washington.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Larry LaFury for WCTV, the all-volunteer access group from the Township of Washington, and welcome to our regularly scheduled shows, Exit 168. Tonight we have something a little special. We have the North Jersey Village Incorporation members are going to be here to talk about that. Now, when I got this information, I knew very little about it. I'm learning a lot more, and I hope that when we finish the show tonight, many of you out there will have a greater understanding of what this is all about and how you can get involved with this. Sitting to my left is Kathy Kuzma, and sitting to her left is Tess Tomasi, right? I got that right? Yes, I hit that right on the head. All right, so let's jump right into this. North Jersey Villages, what is it?
Okay, North Jersey Villages is part of the Village to Village movement, and that's a movement that's been growing across the United States for the past 17 years. It started in Boston when a group of older or younger older adults decided that some things were getting a little bit too difficult for them to handle. Getting out wasn't as easy, and they still wanted to live vibrant, full lives, and they wanted to stay in their own homes. So aging in place was really important to them, and they set up a model now called the Village Model for how people can be supported in doing that. So it's very much a neighbor-to-neighbor kind of concept.
So basically I stay in my home and people give me support for things I can't do?
Well, people give you support, but you also go out as a member. You would also go out and help other people. And that's part of it. It's keeping you alive and contributing to your community so that going forward, when you have needs and you need to have help in your home, that there's somebody there for you.
How do I have to? What happens if I can't? Say I'm limited to a certain extent, or I get sick and I can't do it. Is there a requirement that I have to go out and also offer services to people?
Well, you can call people. You can be that touching people by calling them or doing database information. If you have computer savvy, there's always things that you can do to help.
There's always something you can do.
That's the whole thing, is to find not only what active younger, older adults want to do, but also for those who are isolated at this point, to find things for them to do, to engage them, and to empower them so that they can live fuller lives.
Now, Tess, you with the Bergen County Social Services?
I'm with Bergen County Division of Senior Services.
Senior Services?
Yes, senior services.
How are you involved with this village?
The division is interested in supporting different movements and, different projects that are going on in the community. And one of the most powerful things that people can do is like come together and do this for themselves. We've got an ever increasing number of seniors in Bergen County. We have a huge number of seniors, 200,000 who live here now, and that number is growing. And they are the experts at deciding what it is that they need, and it is the whole range. And when you get groups like this together, they can take it upon themselves, decide what kind of services will help them to remain in their home, remain in their community, in their neighborhood where they know people, and where their families are and where they've lived for a long time, and they'll know, they're the experts on knowing what things can whether it's a larger service or a smaller service, something that can be done by volunteers. So the division is interested in supporting this effort, things that empower the seniors, and any kind of assistance that obviously that we can provide, because this extends our reach into the community.
Do you have to live alone? Can you live with a son, daughter, wife, friend, or do you have to live alone?
No, you can be a member and live with family members or, with another senior. Services like transportation or even going out shopping.
So if you live in, like a lot of, and I know, you live with a lot of people, they live with their children. They have either an upstairs apartment or they live in the basement or some mother, daughter, whatever it is, two-family house. I could still join the North Jersey group and ask for assistance, even though my family's 2 feet from me.
Yes.
You can do that.
Yes, you can.
Do that. Okay.
It's not like services where it's dependent upon your income or your living situation. Gotcha. Okay, any senior who wants to, first of all, a senior can reach out who's living with other family members, may want to actually get out of the family and do other things. Mm-hmm. So out of that environment. So that's a perfect opportunity for them to come forward and to volunteer, to work with. But then also, some of them don't drive at night, but they'd like a ride, and the family car's being used by other members of the family.
So what services would you use? What's the most, when you look at this, what are the more, I don't want to use the word popular, which one's used more by seniors? Is it driving to doctors? Is it food shopping? Is it just going to the movie? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
The greatest needs, and that comes out of surveys that we've done. So from the onset, from when Age-Friendly Community Initiative started in Westwood, and just a couple of months ago, you had over the Westwood Age-Friendly Westwood for All Ages, and they talked about all the things they're doing about the infrastructure to improve the environment, not only for seniors, but for all of their citizens. So we got involved at the same, that initiative started at the same time that we came into Bergen County wanting to present the village model. So we've been working with them all along. What we're trying to do, excuse me, we've been doing surveys and focus groups with them. And we have seen the thing about the village movement is there's a model, there's a toolkit to help people set things up. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are 250 villages that are already up and running.
Yeah, that was my next question. How do you set something up here in Washington Township?
So we have what's called a toolkit or a blueprint, and we follow it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel because we know what has worked in other communities and what hasn't.
And what would be that blueprint if you were starting it here? What is it so people have an idea?
One of the things is to identify a group of people who see the need for the village, because it is a grassroots movement. It really needs to come from within the community. So what we did in working with the Age-Friendly Community Initiative, we met people within the different villages, towns that were involved in that initiative, and we're working with them to try to start villages in those communities. But beyond that, we also looked at the faith-based groups within Bergen County. There are over 800. And one of our board members made it her mission to go forward and call all of these, and we've identified 62 faith-based communities that had outreach to seniors. Of those, and we invited them all to a meeting, and of those, 12 of them came forward. And from that, we now have a pilot village starting. So their interests, they have to be the motivating force. They have to, because it is a neighbor-to-neighbor concept, so that it has to come from within the community. All we can do is tell them that it's available.
It's available.
And then we'll help and facilitate
So
But-
you would get a number of people. I would think you would get a lot of interest going to churches, synagogues, and seeing what's there and who needs help. Because there's where you probably see. You would see that from your end too, right?
But it's I think the concept is that people aren't going to walk up to you and say, I need help with something. But once you get a group of people together in a room and they, can come together and say, this community needs this, we can set up these types of activities. That's when it's driven by the people who are, affected. That I think is the most powerful thing.
So you have an office where you work out of. When you're in Washington Township, how do people get in contact with you? They have to call certain places?
We're virtual, and we will be, although we do have a home at Berkeley College.
Oh, okay.
They have really housed us and supported us, and got in the Lewing Family Foundation have really given us the sponsorship that we needed to get started. So it's taken us 3 years. But just to get back to your original question, Larry, so out of those surveys, what we found that transportation and housing were number one items, the needs of seniors, and to address that. So affordable housing and transportation that goes beyond, the Bergen County shuttle service is wonderful, and you can call and get appointments to go to doctor's appointments or whatever else, actually, but it's predominantly doctor appointments, you're right.
Well, what I've noticed talking to seniors is that a lot of them just want somebody to talk to. Is that provided also, where you go to a home and you sit and talk? You might play cards or different games or watch television or discuss. You find that to be a big need, where the loneliness starts to creep in when you're by yourself?
That was one of the key things that came up. We had our launch lunch just on Wednesday for our pilot village, the village that will include Hillsdale, Montvale, Park Ridge, Woodcliff Lake, and Washington Township. So we had about 23 volunteers there who were interested in hearing more about it and who have a vested intent, really, to go forward with this. And the loneliness was the key thing. Home visitations and phone calls they felt was really an important first project. Frequently, when a village starts, they'll start with only one service, and they'll develop that service, become known in the community, and then they can start adding services. And the whole concept of the village is that you are responding to the needs of the membership. You're not imposing, we're not telling them, these are the services that you should be providing. So the range of services is really, so one of the communities, one of the existing villages, has a very strong what's called a MedPals program. So that what they do is there are seniors, and about 85% of seniors don't have family members in the area. So if they're going to doctor appointments, they need a second set of ears or somebody to take notes for them to help them to remember the questions that they need to ask.
You're absolutely right.
Right? So there's this MedPals program, and there's a certification process that goes with it, and membership signs and says, you follow all the HIPAA laws and everything else, that you're not going to violate any privacy. But what it does is gives that support to seniors who, as I said, don't have someone nearby to go with them. So that's a unique program, and it was started in a community where there were a lot of nurses and social workers, and they saw that need, and discharge planning is another one. So those are not common programs within a village, but they do exist, and this is the thing about the village movement. You can be very innovative. So we took on this faith-based initiative where we explored all that, and we did it from that side. Other communities do it. We're also looking at developing a program within the Y in Garfield. Now, Garfield is one of the age-friendly communities in the initiative. So what we're doing there is working with the Y, looking to develop a village program within their programs.
So every
seniors.
town is going to be specific, because what one town needs, the other town may not need. You have Westwood has the hospital. That would be a completely different set of needs. Well, not complete, but they'll have their own set of needs than here in Washington Township. In Washington Township now, you said you're starting, the village is starting. Where are you now in here in Washington Township?
We had the lunch on Sunday where we had a really good representation of volunteers who are interested in working. Our next meeting is November 14th at 2:30 at Christ Lutheran Church. And we will hope that there'll be more volunteers who will come forward and we'll start building that community. So you look for a group of about 25 people, half of them being volunteers who are going to do the services or be the committees that are necessary for the organization and the establishment. And it's about a year process to really develop the groundwork that you need. You want a good foundation.
Now, these volunteers, are they retirees? They're elderly? They're middle-aged? You get any youngsters coming in, like college kids who want to help, or high school kids who need credit to graduate?
The intergenerational is really very important in the village model as well. And so we're looking at, there are many communities where the colleges, not only the high school students, but college students will work with the village program. And again, it depends on where you are, geographically located.
Right.
So in our community here, we have a lot of potential, really, right, with all the high schools and the colleges.
All right, so we get to the village now, something that we were talking about before. How many volunteers do you need to adequately run this program? If you had 10 people who need services, how many volunteers would you need?
So generally, the membership in a village would be 50% of the volunteers who are providing the services and 50% are the ones who are receiving the services, okay? So that's generally been the statistic that comes down from existing villages. So we look for that ratio. So that's
50,
why I'm saying
50 people needing it, you have 25 volunteers, as you're telling me? Is that a
I'm
number?
saying 50-50.
It's 50-50, so it's one
Yes,
to one.
because your expectations, don't forget, when you have expectations of volunteers, I mean, they're not paid people. So you're saying if you can volunteer one day a week or half a day a week or twice a month, your volunteers are not necessarily working 8 to 5 every day. So, and you're not necessarily getting too many calls in one day. It depends on the size of the community. There are some villages that are 25 to 50 members, and there are other villages that have 600. So,
Do you get the
really
same volunteer for the you're not assigned a volunteer, like I'll join. I don't get the same person. I get whoever's available to come over.
Correct. So
Okay.
there's a whole system in place for, you can do it online or via phone, and there's always that one-on-one. It's
You ever
always
get
that-
overwhelmed? Has it where you have people calling saying, I got to go to doctors, I got to go to the shopping, I have to go pay my bills, I want to go for a walk, and there's 15 people calling and you got 8 volunteers. What happens then?
Part of the Village to Village movement is that we have this forum, so where villages talk about what's working and what's happening in their villages. I see very few of them say that they cannot cover the calls,
Wow.
the requests that they get. There's one that I know of in Moorestown, which is a rural area, where this woman says she does have a backup of volunteers, but most of their residents are much older. They're the older adults.
Okay, I can see where I live by myself and I'm going to get involved. How does a volunteer become a volunteer? What's the process?
Well, just like with the, there's an application, and there's a membership that's involved. And the membership is there's a purpose for it. Even if it's a minimal membership fee, what we're talking about is you have a vested interest in something.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we're trying to encourage people to use services, not only the services that the volunteers can provide, but we are also an information. So we're helping you to access information. We're also negotiating to vet discounts, to get discounts, and to vet local professionals for you. So all of that, you have a vested interest in it. We want to encourage you to use those services. So when people pay into things, they have more of a tendency to use
Absolutely,
them. So
yeah.
that's a key thing in the movement. So membership can be as much as $900 a year, and can be as little as $25 a year. there are a handful of villages that do not charge any membership, and that's because they're supplemented either by the county or the municipality.
And what do we would charge here in Washington Township as yours? What would you think the charge would be here in our town?
Well, what's happening now is that was part of the discussion on Wednesday. And we said, we really can't establish that because we don't know what services you're going to provide. In the onset, as they were discussing, they were talking about just providing calls and visitations. That was one of their prime, it wasn't the only one, but that was their prime one. Now, the cost involved in that is minimal. So, but you still have the administration. We're part of a model that's called a hub and spoke. So North Jersey Villages is the hub. It's an umbrella, okay? And what we're trying to do is develop 72 spoke villages, 72 towns to come together. With this one village that has 5 towns in it, now we're down to 67 spokes. We feel good about that. But that's, the hope is that that's what will happen, that we'll have not only one, but maybe more than one village, because every village should be, some of the towns, are larger. So like in Inglewood, you have the quadrants, and so you could very easily see 4 villages.
Depending on the size of the town, you could
The size of the town and the geography, how it's set up, that you want it to be close enough, you want it to be walkable. You want to be able to service people, to see, the garbage cans need to be carried in, and stuff like that, the little things. And, so the walkability is important, that, be within a good boundaries.
like that. How does it affect the social services? How does this will affect you and what you do so well?
Well, we're county senior services, so we cover the entirety of Bergen County. Our main office is located in Hackensack, but we have senior centers throughout the county. We fund different programs all over, throughout. But this enables us to be able to spread more of the word of to bring resources out into the community. Also for us to hear back on what the concerns are of people who have actually come together in an organized way in a structure, and they've decided that there is a concern that needs to be met. So this is actually quite helpful to the work of senior services. It helps us, one of our charges is that we're the primary planning agency and coordinating agency for senior services in Bergen County, and getting information directly from people who are affected is very valuable. Also, it tells us what services are needed and the scale of services, and this way we can extend geographically our reach, because it is spread out among all these towns. It is hard to connect with seniors. Like you said, a lot of them are socially isolated. That sometimes seniors aren't internet savvy, so we're not having a lot of these connections to the community. So the village gives a very hyper local, intimate connection with people, because your neighbors, the town, the municipalities, they know who their seniors are. So to have this new network that we can tap into, and we can get knowledge from them, and we can respond to their needs, that's actually very helpful for the county's work.
I'm thinking about that, how important that is, and I'm also thinking like Westwood has a senior development right by church, right by St. Andrews, and there's people in there, and I know a number of people that we deal with, my wife and I deal with, who need certain assistance, and I didn't realize what I was doing until you said it now. We're helping them in what you're doing there, and it's important. And I remember
Larry,
my father.
Let me ask you a question, though. So what happens when you and Viola are away?
I don't know. I really don't. Well, they call you because they know you. They call you and George. Can you pick me up? I mean, that's what happens. The phone rings and people are away, my wife and I are away, and they'll call you and say, listen, can you get me to the church? Can you get me to Trader Joe's? Can you get me here? So basically, I didn't realize that some of that things on a very limited basis, we do that. And I think it's so important. And what I always thought was that I saw this with my father-in-law, and I saw it with my uncle who lived in the area. when their wives passed away, the loneliness. They would just like to talk to people, especially my Uncle Joe. He would talk the ears off you, but they needed help, and something like this
So
would work
they may
perfect.
not know that they need help, but if you reach out to them and say, you know, there's some people who need some handyman stuff. They can't get up on a ladder anymore and change a light bulb. You
Right.
could do that for them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you could go change the battery on their smoke alarm and change their screens and storm windows, things that seniors can't do.
You're so right.
And then if we ask them to do that,
Right.
they don't realize it, but then now they're developing new relationships and a new sense of worth.
You are so
and
right.
value.
Well,
You're so right.
When you talk about the social isolation, one of the things that we provide, one of the services that we provide is access to home care and long-term services, and giving people information and advice about assisted living, nursing home care, things like that. But the social isolation is majority by far want to age in place. They want to stay home, and for a lot of these government programs that help pay for things like assisted living and nursing homes, it's very expensive. The government programs can help people to stay at home, and if the people want to stay at home, it's actually a win-win for everybody. But that social isolation piece, you can say, oh, well, they're lonely. But research has come out that says that people who are socially isolated are sicker, and they actually have a shorter lifespan. Right. So you cannot put a value on the connections that people make socially. So, and Kathy was saying that, a lot of times there's caregivers who are not close by, people are by themselves, they're widowed, and they will have healthier lives if they have these connections to other people in the community. And so the village provides that. The models that I've looked at in other communities when I was researching, when I first met Kathy, there were a lot that had a very structured social component to it, with outings and lectures and classes and knitting groups and book clubs and things like that. I mean, this is the members themselves decide, and that is really valuable. That's something you really can't put. You can't put numbers on, but we know by research that improves people's lives, improves the community.
But the thing, Tess, here we have so many senior centers and activity centers, a lot of the villages will not need to have that component. All we'll have to do is help them to access it, either by transportation or knowledge, or establishing a calendar that'll be broader to cover all of the activities that are available within their local region, whether it be, just close enough so that they can get there.
Remarkable.
Yeah,
Remarkable.
so it's filling in those gaps. Very valuable.
Yeah. One of the most important things when we started out was to meet with the Bergen County Senior Services. And so that there was no sense of that we were trying to compete or do something. The whole goal of the village is to augment and to fill in gaps where there is not enough for seniors, the type of support that they need to age in place. So we're trying to assist and to augment and not to replace or replicate anything. We don't duplicate and we don't replace anything. So that's really very important. So for the past 4 years, what we've been doing is developing relationships not only with the county, but with local service providers and agencies, so that they would know who we are and what our intentions are.
So it's wonderful. I've learned so much, and I'm sure in talking to the both of you, and you're more than welcome to come back again to give us an update on where we're going. It's just about, I hope the people out here got as much information as I have sitting here. Now, we have a couple of slides that you were gracious to send us. And if I could ask Ricky to start throwing up, I shouldn't say throw up, put up some of these, I have a bum stomach too. If you could put, Viola's giving me a lot. I drank so much tea, my ears are coming out.
Oh dear.
Now, Kathy, you give us here what we see as the slides will flow. Go ahead.
Well, I think that our umbrella is a very important part of our logo, because what it is, when you think about an umbrella, it's like an insurance policy, right?
Right.
You're going to take it out on a day that you think it's going to rain. Of course, it's not going to rain because you have the umbrella with you, right?
My wife always goes out with an umbrella.
So the umbrella was an important part initially when we thought we were just going to develop a village in one town, but still that was part of our logo. It was like, this is an insurance policy. This is a village, the village movement. The village is not a place. It's a plan. It's a plan for how you age gracefully and independently, and you make your choices about how you're going to do that, because you're going to decide what your village is going to have and what your village is going to do and how it's going to improve your life and the life of those around you. So that umbrella is a really very important part of it.
Questions to
And
ponder during the video about the village here?
Oh, yes. At the end, we're going to be playing a video about an existing village in Pasadena, and very comparable to Bergen County. So it'll give you a chance to see how this group of seniors who met over breakfast started their village and what it took. So they really go through all the planning. So anybody who's looking into the possibility of creating a village, before they contact us, they might want to look at this and say, oh, so okay, this is all that we have to do. The other thing to understand, and when you're looking at the video, is to understand that we're a hub and spoke model. So much of what that they have to do administratively, we as the hub, North Jersey Villages, would be doing for the villages that are spokes with us. No?
All right. Nick, do you have any? I think we got a few more. The history of Beacon Hill Village.
Well,
and
just
village
that
to
I
village
think
net-
I kind of touched on that before. I think we're good on that. There was a group of people who started, and the gift that they gave us was that 101 toolkit, because people were asking, well, how did you do this? You know, it was it made the news, and it was really important. There were NORCs, what are called naturally occurring retirement communities, where just in a given geographic area, you would have a lot of seniors,
Right.
and they would develop services to assist each other.
Okay.
But the thing is, many of these things were not sustainable, because what happens? People start dying, people move away and everything, and there was no structure to it. So what Beacon Hill did was give it a little bit of structure. They hired an executive director. Now, some villages have paid positions. Most villages have some paid, usually 1.5 people. I don't know. I don't know if it's the top or the bottom part, but it's like, there you go.
I hope the bottom is where his wallet is.
Right. So you have administrative and planning. You have certain, and you have the IT function, which is very important, because your database is your instrument. That's your whole communication and your
Right.
whole, it's everything. So that's really very important.
Now, if someone wants to get in contact with you or Tess, do we have a slide where they can get in touch with you? Or
Yes,
a
we do.
website?
I think it's probably our final slide,
Okay.
or pretty much
There we
near
go. Contact.
near the end, the contact
Do
information.
you want to read that nicely? You can read it here. It
I
says
can.
Phone information, and have you. Hey, you even up there too, Kathy.
I
see you
am.
there. All
That's
right.
me.
You got a phone number too.
Yeah.
Does George answer the phone?
Hope not. But actually, North Jersey Villages will have its own phone number very shortly. It just does not at this time. So one of the things, we waited till we had a pilot village, till we started putting our infrastructure in place. So you have the phone number, and you have our website. On our website, you can find articles about other communities and links to different communities and the Village to Village network.
Okay.
Okay, and if anyone makes a donation, would like to make a donation, they can send it to the North Jersey Villages address that's found there.
Right.
the
This show
website.
goes into a lot of towns all over New Jersey. It might strike a chord with somebody, if even far away down in Cape May. We get people calling us from Cape May, and if they want to get in touch with you to see how this is done, you just gave them that information, and let's hope they do that. Now, we're going to end the show with a little clip, about a 15-minute clip. You want to preview the clip, what it's all
Okay,
about?
so that's
people
the
see?
Pasadena Village that we were talking about. I just wanted to mention one other thing, Larry, and
Sure.
that's that there are two. So the people in Cape May, they can call Margate. There's actually a village down there, by the shore, and the other village in New Jersey is in Princeton, and that's basically a social club. And then they have, for added fees, you can get services. So we're the fourth
Okay, but any place that
in New
doesn't
Jersey.
have it, where this
Right.
is going.
You just happened to mention Cape May, and it
figures Cape May.
I
We
said,
get
yeah.
calls from Cape May, but that's why I
Yeah.
figured as far away as we are, wouldn't have mattered. She'd have somebody down there that does a village.
Yeah.
That's all right. So let's preview
So-
the 15 minutes that's going to come up
Okay,
now.
so that Pasadena Village is excellent, because it goes from the beginning of how the the idea germinated into how they finally got their $130,000 donation from somebody. So
Very nice.
to continue supporting their efforts.
Great.
Yeah.
That clip will give a lot more information what we just discussed over the
Absolutely.
last half hour or so.
It'll be the real nuts and bolts.
Well, I want to thank you for coming up. I think we got a lot of information. People got an insight in what the North Jersey Village is. You do a tremendous job in explaining it. I said before, you have an open invitation to come back and augment what's going on. You know, new and better things are coming on, and you want to talk about it. You always have a forum here. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is Kathy Kuzma and Tess Tomasi. They were with the North Jersey Villages. Sit back and enjoy the 15-minute clip that we have. And hope to see you next week. We're covering a football game, so check our website as to where we're being, who we're playing. For Larry, this is Larry LaFury. For the entire crew at WCTV, thank you for enjoying this show, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
When I turned 80, I began to realize I was coming into the fourth quarter of my life. I knew that I needed to plan ahead to think about how to be my best self. And I knew that I couldn't do that just by getting older and playing more golf and sitting on the couch and watching television. So I got together with a bunch of my friends and I said, what can we do going forward in our lives to make our lives the best we can make them and the most creative and stay interesting?
And so we started meeting in our living room, and the options didn't look very attractive to any of us. And so we started to explore the idea of co-housing, which is a Danish concept of a group of people coming together intentionally and forming a group, designing, building, and then occupying a community of residents with common facilities. It turned out there was just anywhere near Pasadena that we could do this because the city was built out, basically. And we all sat around looking at each other. Our group had kind of grown a little bit, and saying, we don't really want to leave Pasadena. We don't want to go to the outskirts or into the desert or to another state. We love this town. One of our early members, Elsie Sadler, said, you know, I was just in Boston as part of her role as, I think, chairman of the Sophie Miller Foundation, which was attached to the Episcopal Communities and Services. They decided to spend some time with the Boston Beacon Hill Village. So she said, you know, you ought to look at this village idea. So we Googled it, and here we saw this group of people getting together in their own community to create a way for people to stay in their community as long as possible.
This is not a place, this is a concept. The village concept is to simply provide a means that elders can stay in their own home. That's the significant part of it, and enjoy all of the advantages they might have in a nice retirement home. And by that I mean all of the social activities.
Okay, so Thursday morning, you need a ride to Fair Oaks in California, right?
They've joined an organization that they can participate in. They're all part of it, and they can contribute and volunteer. And they can join groups of other people that have similar interests.
that is so beautiful.
Library. And the research library is one of the largest independent research libraries in the country.
So all of those things make up the village concept.
As soon as we learned about the village, we started meeting on a regular basis every week. We'd have breakfast and just sit there around the breakfast table and talk about what are the pieces that we have to put on the table? How do we begin to get a board of people who will work together? We need somebody who's going to be good at computers, who can set up a website. And we'll need somebody who has experience with the medical aspects of aging. And we'll need somebody who's very good at doing the finances. And then we'll have to find a person who's willing to be a director with a very small office. If they have to give up their home, they don't want to have to go out to...
During that period, we also started having picnics. Once a month, we would get our little band together and invite people in that we thought might be interested in our village. And, 20 people would show up and 3 or 4 would raise their hand and say, I'd like to come along on this ride. And some have become board members and others have become members. And that reaching out became a part of our personality.
We'll be partnered with various organizations in Pasadena. We've already struck up partnerships with the Huntington Senior Care Network, the Senior Center, and there are so many agencies currently in place in Pasadena designed to provide services for seniors that we will be coordinating with them. We're not going to invent services. We're going to connect people to existing services.
It's been proven really that social support enriches your health and prolongs your life and makes your life more worth living.
I'm going to be here too, but yeah, that's what we should do.
Outsourcing and services that are provided by the Senior Center.
They could still be in their home.
Probably Sierra Madre and like the PUSD districts, but also we got some people from La Cañada and some people from Arcadia. I don't think we're going to kick anybody out.
And so over the course of that year, we kind of began to form the committees that we were going to need to take care of membership development, fundraising, getting the programs right.
And I think we need to start with the hospital.
If you need a roof fixed, you get a referral.
Social activities.
And those who could pay more would help to supplement.
Communications and outreach functions, all those needed volunteers and among us to take our little original band and expand that out into committees, and those all got working. The journey from our early days when Sue came on board to our grand opening, I think was probably about a year of 11 of us just rowing the boat hard so that when we launched, we'd know what we were doing.
Good afternoon.
Hey there.
We're 60 strong now. We opened for business on July 1 and we're 60 and growing. So would all the members raise their hands who are here, okay?
It makes little difference what our life journey has been up to this point, but the fact is we're all in it together. We're all getting older and we all have the same needs and concerns as everybody else. And I think it's that common bond, that common interest that makes the village what it is.
The Board of Directors of Episcopal Communities and Services and the trustees of the Sophie Miller Foundation, which is our supporting organization, we are thrilled today to provide a sizable gift to the village that will sustain its executive director for the next year. That gift also includes an amount that will provide scholarship memberships and incidental services for people who otherwise could not afford to join the village. We would like to present a check in the amount of $130,000 to the Pasadena Village. Wishing you well, and knowing there is more to come next year. So build that membership. Congratulations.
And across the top in big letters, kind of, I'll help.
I do think that Pasadena is a good place to incubate these things. We're not too urban, we're established, we got all these things going on. And if you can't do it in Pasadena, you can't do it anywhere. That's how I feel.
The spectrum of services that we provide is quite varied, and it's all of the things that you can sort of picture that a person living in their home and unable to do some of the things that they used to do might require. And so that means, you know, whether it's standing on a ladder and putting in a light bulb, or whether it's fixing a leaking faucet, or whether it's the cat's gone. She got out and I don't know how to find her.
I just think the idea that you have more friends that will be looking out for you, it's something that we can, you know, I don't think anybody has too many friends.
With kids, as they get in their own lives or whatever, it's hard to get them to come do this or do that, where the Pasadena Village members will probably be there when you need them. Where that your kids, you'll have to say, okay, well, I need my medicine. Well, I'll pick it up, Mom, 2 days later, but I might need it today.
The only service I've taken advantage of when I needed information on where to find someone to fix a couple of broken windows. And surprisingly, 2 volunteers from the Pasadena Village organization came out and took care of removing the windows and taking them to the glass shop and recovering them and reinstalling them.
These are all of the problems that somebody faces, and oftentimes leads them to having to leave their home. And that's the very thing we want to be able to solve, is how to keep somebody in their home.
I like the idea of you only have to go to one place to get an answer. I hate going through those automated phone calls where you got to touch button 1 and then touch button 3 and then touch the star. With Pasadena Village, it's the one phone call. And you get a human being, which is marvelous.
There are different ways in which we can participate in the village. I think that there are times in which we just feel that this gives us the opportunity to give, to serve, and to be of help to other people.
If somebody in the village has gotten sick or broken a leg and is lying in bed, the village people can just volunteer to go and sit by their bed, talk to them, read to them. It gives them a sense of their significance of their lives.
And I have agreed to be a volunteer on the communications committee, and that has proven to be right in the area of which my career was built, which is advertising and promotion. And I've been able to make a contribution there.
For people who, for example, would like to have phone calls every day and to make sure that they're well, that's something they can volunteer. So whether it is giving or receiving, it goes both ways. They've joined an organization in which they can volunteer and which they can receive services comfortably.
To have someone your age talk to you about your computer is very different than having your 17-year-old grandnephew pick it up, do the thumbs, and give it back to you, and you still can't do it. But with our age group, when they take you through it, they do it 1, 2, 3, now you do it, which means when you leave, you can do it.
What happens when I, as a villager, go help one of my villager friends who needs something done? And the first experience was literally me going out to change light bulbs. And I did it, and when we went to say goodbye, the woman who had asked me over came over, gave me a hug, and she had tears in her eyes. And how moved she was that somebody would actually come over and help her out. And that'll make your day.
By asking for services, by needing something, you're actually providing a service to those who then have a chance to make a connection with you and to learn from you.
Being a member of the Pasadena Village has really giving me sort of like out of my comfort zone, you know, sort of like not just being afraid to reach out or afraid to meet people, you know. So it has been very helpful to me that I am a member of the Pasadena Village.
When you're getting older and your friends are beginning to die and you're beginning to be worried about your health, there's lots of things that you need. But what you really need is someone who's going through that with you, so you're not alone.
We carry each other along, we ask each other the questions, we get the answers, but most of all, we keep moving. We keep going. And as we go, it's like the ragtag group that brings everybody along because they hear the music, they hear the laughter, they see them, they're colorful, and people want to be a part of that. And I think when you bring that joy, that sense of, aha, it's contagious.
Hey, hi Margaret, how are you?
Good to see you.
Great to see you.
The Pasadena Village program provides me with a whole environment, an emotional environment and an active community environment, which will allow me to develop into a reasonably interesting older guy.